My name is Ashlyn Grogan. It's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Elaine Eisenman. Dr. Eisenman comes to us from Babson College, where she is Dean of Executive Education and responsible for the strategy and growth of the Executive Education Division, as well as for all non-degree programs and entrepreneurship. She is also responsible for the management of the top-rated Babson Executive Conference Center. As an organizational psychologist, Dr. Eisenman's career includes experience as a business leader and general manager, HR executive, private and public board member, and organizational consultant. Her areas of expertise include executive coaching and selection, transition and succession, and the alignment of strategy, selection, compensation, and performance during periods of growth and transformation. As both a board member and board consultant, she has extensive experience in corporate governance and is a frequent speaker on corporate governance issues, focusing on boardroom dynamics, CEO succession, and the role of the compensation committee. She has both consulted to and served on a number of private and not-for-profit boards and advisory boards for both startups and family businesses. Currently, Dr. Eisenman is a member of the board of directors of DSW Incorporated and Active International. She's a faculty member for NACD's board advisory services and a founding member and member of the boards of Women Corporate Directors and the Belizean Grove. Dr. Eisenman is also the author of a variety of publications on business. Of note, she is the co-author of a book called I Didn't See It Coming, the only book you'll ever need to avoid being blindsided in business, and an article, Public Policy, Enabler or Inhibitor of Entrepreneurial Companies. Additionally, she has been highlighted in interviews by the Wall Street Journal, Agenda, Directorship, and board member, as well as on ABC's 2020, where she spoke on the topic of failure as a foundation of entrepreneurial success. Recently, Dr. Eisenman was selected by Agenda magazine as top 100 diversity board member. She holds an MS from Columbia University, as well as a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology from New York University. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Elaine Eisenman.
And the goal of our session today, and there's going to be more fluid than it looks like on the agenda. I'll be presenting, and I've got an interesting, I hope, presentation for you on careers and entrepreneurship. And then we've got this extraordinary panel, and we're going to sort of move back and forth, and I will end early so we can have more panel and more discussion. But the important piece is for you to also become involved and interact. Otherwise, we're a failure. So let me ask you a few questions to get started. First question, is this an odd topic for this institute? Looking over all your agenda items, you're ending on careers, life, entrepreneurial thought, and you've been dealing with these weighty problems of the world. How odd is it?
It's not odd at all, because I think that's something that we've been craving, as we're hearing about all these important issues, and we're learning about so many important things, and we're just sort of lost in what that means our place is in the world and what careers we'll take on to address those issues. So I think I was really excited when I saw the topic.
So nobody knows I actually paid her to be able to say that. Thank you, you did a great job. But so that begs the question, how many of you, I know you're upper juniors and seniors, know right now what you want to be when you grow up, the year after college? Some of you? Half? Okay, so what do you want to be? A doctor. A doctor? All right, everyone who wants to be a doctor, raise their hand. Okay. So we've got this corner of doctors. Another doctor, or no, another?
I would like to become a medical physicist and to start my own business.
Okay, medical physicist and start your own business. So you should probably be sitting over here with the doctors. Public health? Okay, public health nursing? Okay.
Civil servant, so I should probably.
Well, we have someone here for you. Okay, what about this part of the room? You're still undecided? A diplomat. Okay, that's good. That's good. College professor. Anything else, or the rest of you are still searching? You're all searching. So for the doctor group, that's the most concrete, right? What's your certainty right now at this moment that that's going to be your life? Yeah? 100%? 85. 85. Okay. 85 is a good percentage. Anybody else are 85% certain about what they're going to do? Okay, you are. Why?
I would actually say I'm more than 85, and that's just because public health is such a broad industry, and I've been interested in it for so long that even if I'm not necessarily in nursing or patient healthcare, it's so broad that I can find another aspects of public health that I can still be involved in.
Okay, so you're open to a broader definition. Okay, great answers. So let's move on with the show. One more question. If you only get one thing out of today, what should it be? Huh, no one's ever asked you that question before?
More clarity in the options.
More clarity on the options. I'm going to disappoint you. Well, we'll have no clarity on the options. You will walk out of here today thinking there is no clarity in this world. And if I do that, I'll be successful. So I'm going to try to change your mind about clarity being possible.
Here's one thing you want us to get out of your presentation.
That clarity isn't possible. I told you I paid her a lot of money to tee this all up.
How do you reach a decision?
How do you reach a decision? Okay, we'll address that too. I think we can address that.
There isn't one thing that everyone is meant to do, or that you can only do one thing without a lot of options throughout.
We don't even need to do our presentation, do we? You are so teed in a different direction than I expected, so that's good. So more clarity. How make decisions. And how identify options. We've come to the right place. So let's start. Okay, so when I graduated college, this is what I was. I knew my life was absolutely set out. I went to Boston University School of Nursing. I was going to be a psychiatric nurse. I got married my junior year of college. Whoever does that? How did my parents ever let me do something like that? And this was my path of life. I had a really straight path. I knew what I was doing. There would never, ever be any changes. And I had clear sight into the future, right? What could be better? The world was open, and I knew where I was going. So when I met and started talking with Joanne about this program, we talked about sort of what my path was like and how it took and what kinds of left turns and right turns. So what do you think? Was that my path? Is it anybody's anymore? Is it ever possible? So this morning I was showing my husband what I thought my path looked like, and it's this. And he said, I think there's too few roads on that. Because by and large, when you ask for clarity, you're never going to get it. And so if you start off anticipating that your life may look this way, it makes it a whole lot easier. Because it means that, and if you notice where I put the beginning, I think there's a pointer here. Oh, I've just destroyed this. One moment, please. This is why they don't let me touch remotes at home. I absolutely fulfill all those stereotypes. Anyway, if you start looking, you'll see that where I have the beginning, this road leads nowhere near any of those other roads. And it goes in a totally different direction. And I figure right now I'm about here. And who knows where I'm going to be tomorrow. I've had some interesting phone calls, having interesting discussions, and that's what life and career looks like. So why is that? Why isn't clarity ever possible? Why can't we predict? Any ideas?
Sometimes we just choose not to. We choose to go in different directions that maybe we wouldn't have thought of 5 years ago.
Okay, and what makes us make those decisions?
Maybe because we think that something would be more interesting than what we're doing now, or better, or help more people, or.
Okay, something catches our interest. So we thought we were going this way. We say, maybe. Let me go check that out. And it's great that you're answering this way, because the big challenge is conventional wisdom, is causal logic is predictive. If we just have all the information, if we just know what's going on, we're in total control. And that's been the prevailing logic in life, in work, in business, in the economy, and in markets for a very long time. Just give us all the information, we'll run all the data, and we'll come out with the answer to everybody's issues. And once we have all the, if we have enough data, if we only have enough data, we can predict anything, and we can be in control, master of, or mistress of our own fate, right? Guess what? The world is no longer predictable. Think of all the turmoil in the markets right now. Think of what's going on in the world. How much certainty do you have about anything? Is Europe going to explode? Is Paula Deen going to lose weight? You know, we don't know anything right now. Will she ever take lard out of her food? I don't think so. Ain't going to happen. But this is what the world looks like, right? So how do you plan a life if the world looks like that? Any ideas?
I think you have to be flexible with yourself and not feel like you have to go down one path, but that you can take opportunities when they come to you, and just be flexible and be creative and be able to roll with what you have.
Right. So and there's an element of knowing oneself in order to be able to take what life has to offer. And as we'll talk about more now and also with the panel, that's part of the key, is figuring out where you're starting, but giving up a notion of where you're ending.
My mom always talks about not being closed-minded and the dangers of that, so it's almost like clarity is closed-minded, so just always be open to new options in life and open to like losing some passion that you may have had, not losing it, but you know, going on a different journey. So open-minded.
Your mom is right. Your mom is right. And so that's the other thing I want you all to know. And you can call her, or you could text her right now and say, Dean Eisenman said, you are right. So here's and this, you know, begs Donald Rumsfeld's view of the world, and I'm sure you've seen this time and time again. But the known unknowns, the known knowns, and the unknown unknowns. This is what our lives are like right now. Take a second and think for your own life, what is the one known known that you would say you can hold on to? Just take a second and think. What do you absolutely know as a certainty in your life right now as you think about where you are in your life path? Okay, anybody want to share? And you don't have to if it's personal.
Well, I know that no matter what I do, my parents will always be there to support me.
Okay, that's a great thing to know. It's sort of, it gives you a foundation for trying the world. Because think about it, no matter what I do. So that opens the world in terms of opportunity. Because they're not going to say, we expected you to be an X. How dare you want to be a Y? Now we can't live with that anymore. And that happens to people. You're shaking your head, yes. You've seen it happen.
I told my dad I wasn't going to medical school, and he was like, should I tell you now or
You told him you just didn't want to sit in that part of the room, is what happened. And did he get over it, or is he still holding a grudge? He got over it? Okay. Yeah, but that's important. And did you believe him when he said it? No. You knew he was going to be there for you. Okay, what are some other things that people are known knowns? Life is short. Okay, that's a sobering known known. And short has different meanings.
Well, I mean, in the sense that it spurs us, you know, to make the most of the time that we have, knowing that, you know, the time is short, and so we should do all that we want, what we see as good, the legacy that we want to leave our lives.
Right. So in some ways it's kind of scary, I think, particularly when you're your age, to say life is short. Life is probably shorter than any of us want it to be. And it's unpredictable, so we don't know how short it will be. And so the challenge, as you say, is how do you maximize the time you have with doing the things you want? So the classic picture is always when you're sitting on the rocking chair, 2 minutes before the end of your life, what don't you want to regret not doing? So that's part of what you're talking about. Okay, great. That's another important known. Anybody else? Okay. Unknown unknowns. Do you know what an unknown unknown is? Okay, what would be an unknown unknown? There's a lot of people who shook their head yes. Okay.
Something that you can't even really conceive of yet.
Okay.
That you can't conceive of, so something you don't know.
Right. Something you don't know because you can't conceive of it. Okay. Can anybody think of an example of an unknown unknown? Being in an accident. Okay. So is that an unknown unknown or is that a known unknown? Accidents happen.
Yeah, but I think it's more of an unknown. I don't think anyone ever extends the accident to happen yet.
Okay. So there's an ephemeral piece out there that some people get in accidents. And there's a self-serving bias that, but not me. So that makes it so it's always the shock. Okay, that's a good example. How about a known unknown? Okay, you know you're graduating.
Have some ideas.
Okay.
Know which one.
Okay, great, great. So you haven't decided. Well, we know you're going to be a doctor. You're Tenzin?
Maybe you can be outside things that you cannot control, so you don't know. Like, no one saw the Arab Spring coming, so maybe if you're interested in politics, then you can conceive that.
Okay. Okay, so Arab Spring, a known unknown. There's access to the internet. People are learning about the world. There's things that are happening, but who knew that it would all be pulled together? Or who knew what the connections would be made? Or who knew that having Mark Zuckerberg's girlfriend break up with him would result in Arab Spring? Right? That's why you started Facebook, to get even. So, that's the butterfly flaps its wings in one part of the world and the current starts. Who knew that? A known unknown. That those two pieces would triangulate to come together to form something important. Good points. Okay, so that all leads to the challenge of logically planning your life. Right? Because you don't know. You can start on the path, but the challenge is how do you be open if suddenly you hit a question mark instead of a destination, or the question mark is the destination. Oops. So here's a quote from Tom Friedman. You've all read his column in the New York Times. When I graduated from college, and he's in his early 50s, I was able to go and find a job. Now your generation will need to invent a job. Is that a positive statement or a scary statement? Scary? How many people think it's scary? Okay, the 3 people who think it's positive. Tell me why.
I think it's scary positive. Yeah, you have both opportunities there and the ability to create something, but you don't really know what's going to happen, and that's always scary.
Okay, so the ability is there, but you don't know. You can't predict, you can't control. So that's the scary part. Who else thought it was okay?
I think there's an opportunity for our generation to put forth what we're capable of and to put forth our own creativity.
Okay.
Following the old world order.
Right. So it's an opportunity to create a future. I mean, there's a statistic that came out, and I wish I could remember who the source was, or if I had thought of it earlier, I could have Googled it, but it's kids who are graduating high school today, 85% of them will find jobs that didn't exist when they started high school. So you're a little closer to jobs, so it's not quite that statistic, but think about that. These are kids who are 4 years younger than you, 6 years younger than you. Jobs that didn't exist when they started high school. Interesting time for opportunity. There was one other person with their hand up.
Yeah,
Okay, so creating your own job gives you the freedom to do exactly what you want. And also the freedom to change your mind 12 minutes later and say, you know what, I didn't really love this. But at least you tried it. So you're right, it gives you more freedom. So we're going to play a game. Who wants to play? Okay. Okay, so what I have in this bag, somebody come up. Okay, whoever. Okay, what I have in this bag, count them. Our Hershey's Kisses. Tell me how many purple ones there are and how many silver ones there are.
There's 10 purple and
Okay, so put them back in the bag. See, nothing in the bag. Okay. What color do you like better? What flavor do you want? Purple or silver? You want purple. Okay, what's the chance you're going to pick what you want? Half. So it's 50-50. Okay. Put your hand in. Don't look. Pick one. Purple. Okay. Okay. Since you got purple, not yet. Since you got purple, you get to choose again. What color do you want?
I'm going to go with silver this time
You're going to go with silver. Why?
because there's a higher possibility of me getting silver and I'm hungry, so I want more chocolate.
So probability overtakes preference.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So you're playing the odds. Silver. All right. You get to choose another one. I hope you're very hungry. What
I'm
color?
going back to purple because I do like purple better and now the odds are even again.
Okay, fine. She's on a roll. Is this always? I actually don't know the probability of this, but of you being all right. What next time?
We go with silver again, you know, have 50-50.
Right.
Balance out my diet.
Okay, fine. With the purple food group and the silver. I have to tell you, I've never seen this happen. Never, ever, ever. Stick with her, whoever.
Okay.
Okay, back to purple. Oh. Okay, but you beat the odds by getting 4. Give me that back. Okay, we're going to increase the stakes. So what was this? Prediction worked. You knew what you started with. You knew the proportions. You could absolutely calculate the probability of choosing each. And you did a great job of choosing purple and then silver, so you balanced the odds. So you always kept probability on your side until you blew it, right? Okay, so who thinks that this is life? Not so much. Okay, let's try another one. Who wants to come up? Okay. Okay, what do you think we have in here?
Objects,
Objects. What kind of objects?
solid objects.
Solid objects. Are they edible solid objects?
Usable objects.
Usable objects. Okay, let's see.
Okay.
Okay, and what, do you want to guess something you're going to pick out?
No.
Okay, so you're just going to play.
Yeah.
Okay, so pick something.
Oh. Chocolate.
What color? What color?
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay, fine, but different one than before.
Sure.
Okay, so we've now established that there's some chocolate in here.
Sure.
Okay. What's the probability you'll get another one of the gold ones?
Unknown.
Unknown. Okay, you want to try?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh. Slightly different pattern.
Okay, so but the same chocolate.
Sure.
Okay, you still want to play?
Yeah.
What's in it for you?
I don't have anything to lose.
You don't have anything to lose. Okay, pick another one.
Sure. Oh, another one.
So are we forming a pattern here?
No.
No. Okay, you don't trust it yet. One copper color and 2 golds does not a pattern make?
No, I don't trust that you will always give it to me.
So you don't trust me. Ah. Okay, should we try again?
So how many times can we play?
How many times do you want?
Until I reach my daily diet calorie count.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
What?
exactly.
Utility is at stake, right, exactly. Okay, pick again.
Okay.
Huh.
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 Are we getting a sense of where this is going? How many people think we're getting a pattern here? Okay, and how many people think the colors in this bag are copper and gold? Okay, so from 4 chances, 4 choices, you've formed a pattern that you're willing to bet on? Yeah, the doctors are. What are her odds? That's what I'm asking you. You've got some patterns. You've got some knowledge about the distribution. Are we willing to say that everything else in this bag is what you've seen some glimpses of? And I'm saying it in a way that's making you anxious, right?
Well, I don't have anything to lose.
You have nothing to lose, so that's part of it. Okay. But people are willing to make, okay, so what's going to be the next one she chooses? They said, you know, listen, it sounded the same as the other bag. What color will Lily choose next? Gold. Well, some people think we have no way of knowing, and other people are willing to bet on gold, right? Because there's a pattern that's emerging. Lily, pick a color. Pick a candy.
Oh, purple.
So what did we just think about? What just happened in this predictive logic? What? Surprises happen? Things that look a certain way may not continue on that path, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all chocolate.
It's all chocolate.
After
So,
you peel them, it all tastes the same.
right. So for you, what mattered was the content of the wrapper.
Yeah.
Okay. For other people, the colors were kind of interesting and the pattern was interesting, right? Okay, let's play a third game. Somebody else come up. You can keep those. Okay, Camille.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you want to pull out of here? What do you think's in here?
I would like some chocolate.
You would like some chocolate. Okay, so put your hand in, and what color chocolate would be best for you?
I'm really not that picky.
So it's anything that's chocolate.
Anything that's chocolate.
Okay, put your hand in.
Not my day.
No. A honey stirrer. Okay, who else wants to play? You get to keep it. Okay.
Do I have to predict, or can I just pick?
No, you have to predict.
Okay. I'm going to say it's some sort of object since we've moved away from food.
Okay, but what kind of object?
A pencil.
A pencil. Okay, put your hand in.
Oh, sweet.
What'd you get? Food. Okay, you get to keep the food. Who else? Okay, come on down. Line up. You can all pick something. There's going to be a lesson here, I promise.
I'm going to pull out a spoon.
You're going to pull out a spoon. Okay, so here's some real certainty around the probability. Okay.
I'm looking for a spoon. Paperweight.
Paperweight. A rock. Hand-painted rock. Not so much a spoon. Okay, one more. Okay.
I think I will just say I hope it's edible.
You hope it's edible.
I was right. Vicky did.
Okay, so does anybody want to trade with anyone? No? Everybody's happy with what you got? Huh? You have 4 chocolates. Some people wanted food and didn't get it. Anybody want to trade? No? Okay. So what happened in this bag? What? A lot of surprises. Okay, what do you think, if we think about entrepreneurship for a minute, which game do entrepreneurs like to play the most? The last one? Why? Because of the surprise. Okay, so I'm going to break your logic and tell you that all the research on entrepreneurs show that they're no more risk takers than anybody else on this planet. Entrepreneurs actually don't like risk. They prefer the known, but when they play in the unknown, which this is, the question is not what did I get, but what can I do with it? And what will happen often, and I've seen really violent moments when I've done this game with CEOs and their leadership teams about who wants what, and I really like that purple thing that you got, says the CEO, so give it to me now. But the, I swear. But the question is, and this is filled, we've got chocolates, we've got Legos, we've got coat hooks, we've got all kinds of good stuff. And this is the what can you make of it bag. The opportunity can be I'll simply eat it, but immediately you wanted to trade. I've got 4 chocolates back here. Does somebody want to trade with me? Nobody took her up on it, but that's what happens when you're faced with lots of opportunity. It may not be the right one for you. You really wanted a spoon, and you got a rock. An attractive painted rock, but a rock nonetheless. But the question is, what can you do with that rock? And you might want to trade it. You might want to smash chocolate and make hot chocolate. You might want to, get into a battle with Camille and her honey dipper, or all kinds of things. But the question becomes, when faced with uncertainty, it's not, oh my goodness, I lost, I didn't get what I wanted. But the question needs to be, what can I make of it? What can I do with it? So which was the most fun to play in? The last one. Because it was uncertain. Once you figured out that there was, and there is chocolate in there, once you figured out that there wasn't a lot of chocolate, you immediately went to stuff. And then what can I do with the stuff? How can I take it? So that's something I'd like you to think about as we continue. So we had the knowable, which is the prediction, and as I said, no one has ever gotten as far as you got, so kudos to you, and you might as well buy a lottery ticket right now. The unknowable, and the even more unknowable. Okay, so during times of uncertainty, the old rules don't apply. And what I'd like you to do very quickly is watch this video, and then we'll talk about it. So the video is a test. There's the people wearing the black T-shirts and the people wearing the white T-shirts. And your job is to count the number of times the people in the white T-shirts pass the ball to each other, okay? So there'll be a winner. You can actually look in the bag and choose what you want. But I want you to count the number of times, okay? The white T-shirts are passing to each other. The black T-shirts are passing to each other. Count the number of times the white T-shirts make a successful pass of the pink ball with stars to each other, okay? It's a very short video. Okay, how many times? 16. All right, I guess everybody gets to choose a prize. 16 is the right number. See anything else? Did everybody see the gorilla? Okay, who didn't? How many people saw the gorilla? How many people do you think there's really a gorilla? No? Okay, let's watch this again. Okay, but all right, how many of you have already seen this video? Okay, so let me ask another set of questions before I show the rerun. You all knew to expect the gorilla, right? You saw it march through. Did you see anything else? The change in color of the curtain from what to what? Red to yellow. How many people saw that? And did you see anything else? No? Okay, did you see one of the black T-shirt people leave? Really? it ended with 2. So who saw the gorilla, the curtain change, and the black T-shirt person leave? All 3. No one. Okay, so, and you have 4 chocolates. We'll give you more. All right, let me, for those of you who disbelieve, let's play it again. Watching? And the curtains change, and the black T-shirt person leaves. You still didn't. What didn't you? What didn't you see? What didn't you see? Somebody said I didn't see what? Okay, should we do that again? Because it's important. I'll tell you in a minute why. Here we go. They left, the black T-shirt person left when the gorilla came on. And right, it all happened simultaneously. So the original video of this was simply the gorilla. It's about 20 years old, for those of you who saw the old one. And what Daniel Simon, who created the video, discovered is that more and more people had seen the gorilla video. It was in a room with a white background. It was a sort of crappy-looking place. The gorilla comes in. He goes out. And so as he started showing these videos, he discovered that so many people had seen the gorilla, he decided, and so what's the issue with the gorilla? Let's start with the gorilla before we look at anything else. Why don't people see the gorilla? Right. That's exactly right, because you're so focused on the task at hand. You're focused on what you're told to look at. So if you're told to simply look at the most important thing in the world is I get this job, I get this position, I get this opportunity. What aren't you going to see? You're not going to see the gorilla. You're not going to see the rest of the world. Okay? So when people are focused on task, and it's something called inattentional blindness, when people are focused on a specific defined task, you lose the periphery. All you're looking at, think about it in terms of driving. My introduction to inattentional blindness was one night very late on the Jersey State Parkway when I was speeding on my way home from a consulting assignment because I was really tired and it was a blizzard and I was the only car on the highway because it had just opened after being under construction for 20 years. And there I was in my car speeding home, desperate to get home to New York. And all of a sudden, I looked up in the rearview mirror and there was, the police behind me, and I pull over. And he gets out of the car, and I put my window down, and he says, so, how long do you think I've been behind you? And I said, I don't know, a minute? And he said, don't you ever look in your rearview mirrors? I've been following you for 15 minutes, and you're going like 95 miles an hour. So, of course, I did what anyone would do in that situation. I started to cry. And said, I had no idea. And he said, you have to look in your mirrors because you need to see the world, not just where you're heading. That's inattentional blindness. And he took off. He said I was only going 75 and I didn't get points. But because I cried. And he felt badly. But that's what happens here. You're told to look at one thing. You're looking straight ahead. You're counting. You're watching the white shirts. Somebody once said to me, if you told us to count the black shirts, we would have seen the gorilla. Well, that's not the point. So, but what Simon found out, which is really sad, is that for people who have seen the gorilla, who have been told to look at the whole, who have been told to look at the corners, who have been told to look at the periphery, they still don't see the curtain changing, and they still don't see the black shirt person leaving. Because they sit there thinking, I know it's going to be a gorilla. I'm going to be the person who raises my hand to say I saw the gorilla, and they don't think of anything else. They haven't generalized the learning. And so the reason I like to use this video is in the hope that you'll generalize the learning. I taught a program for a fire department, and the chief said, this is why firemen get killed in fires, because they're so busy looking for a body that they don't see the roof collapsing or the floor collapsing. And what's interesting is, in general, there's at least 20 to 25% of any audience who do not see the gorilla. And no one, hardly anyone, ever sees the curtains changing now that we're using this, or the team member leaving. So for those of you who saw all three, you are well prepared for the future. Absolutely well prepared because, and for driving on highways late at night, because you don't have to worry about inattentional blindness. But think about it. And here's a great, so the question is, what don't you expect that's out there? Because that could be the best opportunity of your life. And we'll hear more about that from our panel, about how constant vigilance for opportunity is important. So here's a great quote from Seth Godin about this. The best ideas come out of the corner of our eye, the edge of our consciousness in a flash. They're the results of misdirection and random collisions, not a grinding onslaught of the obvious and expected. I love this quote. I hope you love it too, because that's what we're talking about as you think about your future. What's in the corner of your eye? What's on the edge of your consciousness? What is there? What's the unknown known or the known unknown that isn't defined yet, that you can find will be your future? Okay, so what's your brain orientation, which can help you more? And I'm sure you've done lots of this in psychology and biology. Left brain, right side controls the right side of the body. Logical, rational, thinks best solo, creates lots of ideas. Rational, sequential, analytical, objective, and looks at parts. Predictive logic is the left side of the brain, right? Too often, as we think about the future, we let the left side of our brain define how we look at it. That's our screener. Is it logical? Is it sequential? Does it make sense? And so we self-censor opportunity. That seems ridiculous. Who would ever think of doing that? That's the left side of your brain talking. The right side controls the left side of your body. Emotional, visionary, thinks best in groups, gathers ideas from groups. Holistic, intuitive, synthesizes, looks at the whole. And so when the right side of your brain starts talking, it's all about opportunity and connecting the dots. The right side of your brain sees the gorilla. The left side of your brain rejects it, because why is a gorilla walking through the screen? Right? So, and this is from a book by Daniel Pink called The Whole New Mind. So, and here's a quote from him. The next 10 years will require people to think and work across boundaries into new zones that are totally different from their areas of expertise. They will not only have to cross those boundaries, but they will also have to identify opportunities and make connections between them. So what he's talking about, and now we're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurial thought and action, is how to get your left side of the brain and the right side of the brain working together to get you to the next place. And the place after that and the place after that is the boundary crosses. So let's think about creation and prediction. Creation, right side of your brain, every input expands the possible opportunities available. Prediction, large amounts of information analyzed down to narrow options. That's how it goes, okay? Think of what the implications of that are when you're trying to think about your future. Do you really want to spend time on the prediction side? And what can it do for you? It's a question. It wasn't rhetorical. What happens, Camille? Right. Right. And it's important not to start there. It's important to not rely on that as 100% of the track. The creation side is where you start, and then the prediction side is how you sort. And it's that balance that makes it all possible. So let's look for a minute. And that's what we just said. Let's look for a second at quilts and puzzles. which is predictive and which is creative? Right. So, and the puzzle is totally defined. I was on a panel a couple weeks ago for National Association of Corporate Directors on, it was entitled Future-Proofing the CEO Suite. And one of the speakers who had just written a book on how do you choose your next CEO talked about how it's all a jigsaw puzzle because the board search committees do a great job at understanding the strategy and then figuring out what all the little pieces are. And I said, but in this world, isn't it a quilt where you have to work with what you have because you don't necessarily know what the issues are? And he stopped and he looked and he said, so where were you when I was writing my book? I never thought of quilts. Because if you're filling in the pieces, it's all predetermined. There is no variability in puzzle making. The goal's apparent. You get the resources. It's time to plan. You know, are we going to do the outsides? Are we going to do the blues? Who's going to do what? You get organized. You get your strategy. Everybody gets set. You execute the plan. You always end up doing the outside first. You measure your progress. The project's complete. Now let's look at quilts. Quilts are also pre-planned. Think of what it takes to create a quilt like that. Think of what it takes, the planning to create a quilt like that. It's harder than a jigsaw puzzle, but the vision is there and the execution is critical because that designs, it started with the design, right? So that's still predictive logic. Now talk about crazy quilts. Does everybody know what a crazy quilt is? Okay, so historically, they were Victorian, oldest form of American patchwork, limited only by imagination. People didn't have the ability in rural areas where crazy quilts started to collect, you know, I need 12 black things, I need 11 reds, I need 14 blues. It was whatever scraps were available from all the clothes you'd been making. So you pulled together a whole bunch of people and you made a crazy quilt with what you had. So crazy quilts look like this. There's no design, and they don't even have to be square. We do an experiment with some of our clients where we have them do the quilts and the puzzles, and then we have them working on jigsaw puzzles, and then we bring them into a room where there's just piles of scraps, and we say, go make something. And the more senior they are in the organization, the more horrified they are because A, they have to get on the floor, and B, they have to touch fabric. But the, and it's interesting because some groups, and these are the groups that are really in trouble with being able to deal with uncertainty in the environment, some groups actually create regular quilts by saying, okay, you take all the reds, you take all the blues. We tell them to just take stuff and go find a group to work with, but they rigify the whole process of quilt making, where other groups make circles, they make long things, they make all kinds of stuff. What we're talking about is how do you live a life of a crazy quilt, which are quite beautiful. So how do you create the crazy quilt? You have an idea. You look at scraps. You might pull some resources together to say, let's pull it together, and then you all start working. So it's the network piece. And that's really what we're talking about. Oops. Okay, so prediction. You start with a goal. You move towards the goal. You get off, you get back on plan. Creation gives you other options. You're learning as you go along. The world is changing. And maybe you go to a different goal because you've learned stuff. The opportunities have happened, you've taken advantage of it. Look at the difference when you hit an obstacle between prediction and creation. If you only have one goal, it's easy to get knocked off. But if you have different goals, the obstacles allow you to build your future in a way that you're not then back at the beginning. You have choices. So very quickly, and then I'm going to be finishing. elements of entrepreneurial thought and action are applicable to your thinking about your careers. Think about the means, not the ends. What do I have? How am I getting there? How am I building? Who am I including? Who am I? You know, the public health over there, you said no matter what it is, I can have different opportunities with a core of public health knowledge. You know, I think I learned everything I needed to know about organizations when I was a psychiatric nurse working in the psych emergency room at Harlem Hospital. That's how organizations often function. You know, how do you take a core competency and expand it? What do I know? Whom do I know? Who are my networks? Who can help me? How many people can I call and say, I'm thinking about this, what do you know about it? And we'll talk a little bit on the panel about the bravery of picking up a phone and calling people you don't know to get access to learn. Affordable loss. Affordable loss is an interesting concept. It's about you're stepping back, thinking about who you are, and thinking about what can you afford to lose, not what can you afford to risk. Because that forces you to focus on the wrong element. It's what can you afford to lose? And it can be money, time, opportunity, reputation. But what could you be comfortable with? What's the worst thing that happens? You get embarrassed. Somebody says, I'm busy. You go in the wrong career. When we had a great career counselor college counselor at the school my kids went to. And she used to say, with all these frantic parents about where their kids were going to go to college, she used to say, it's about the next year of their life. We know it's hard for you to believe it, but if they're miserable, they can transfer. This is not their life. This is next year. That's what affordable loss is about. You might have lost some time, but you'll have learned. Committed stakeholders. Who do you want to make stakeholders in your future? Who do you want to call on? How do you want to reach out to them? What resources can you get? By networking with people, by talking with people, by learning and getting people to care about what you do because you've engaged them in a process. And how many opportunities will you find by calling them in? And then obstacles into opportunities. Think about that last piece. Expect surprises, expect failures, and use them as learning. One of the things we're learning about entrepreneurs is, and there's been a lot of talk about failure and how important failure is. First of all, failure is worthless if you don't step back and learn from it. And so the only reason failure is important is because it's a learning point. So it's not wrong, it's not you're a terrible person, it's not anything other than more data. It gives you information. And that's the value of failure, not because you need to learn how to bounce, but because you need to learn how to learn from things you've done and build on those learnings and look at those opportunities. So what would rational thinking and behavior look like in the face of unknowability? That's the world, right? You either sit and think or you act. But you can't think your way into an unknowable future. Prediction doesn't matter. You have to act your way. You have to try it out. The only logical thing is to act. So how do you act smartly? You take small steps. Critical piece. What's the next step? Not what am I doing 10 years from now? If I do this, will I get into graduate school? Who cares? You might not want to go to graduate school if you do this. You may decide you love this, whatever this is. As you said, you create your own job, and then you say, I created something I love. And you might not need to get more initials around your name. That just might not be important. The important piece is taking the small steps, limiting the risk, because you're looking at affordable loss. If I take a left turn in my career, or if I do, people always worry about gap years and things like that. That's limiting the risk and taking the small steps. Step on the firm ground in terms of reality. Know what you're getting into. Don't sugarcoat it. Think about it. Go through the process and think, what am I risking here in terms of affordable loss, not what is my long-term risk? What am I willing to lose? That's the reality. Build off what you find. That's what we talked about with mistakes. Whether it's good or bad, and you learn more from the bad than you do for the good. The biggest failure for companies is unlimited success, because then they think they're just successful companies. if they stumble and they step back and say, why did we stumble, then those companies can grow. Have friends standing by for rescue. Don't do it alone. You know, when your parents are standing there, you're still going to hear about it. I knew you shouldn't have done that. As the mother of 3, as much as I never want to say it, and more. You can add to that yourself. So visualize your passion. And and I'm happy to send copies of it. One of my colleagues, Heidi's Neck, has designed this, and I think it's awesome, so I will share it with you. 3 types of ideas: grounded, blue sky, spaced out. Use this as you think about your future. Safe, incremental, obvious, plain, predictable. That's the ground, grounded. How many of you want careers there? You do. Yeah. Why? Safe. And safe feels good right now? Okay, but tell me what's safe. Okay. Okay, so a simple commands. Okay. Okay, so you're building, so what the bottom is a place where you don't have to feel stressed because you know what to expect.
I want to feel stressed, but stressed going in a certain direction, but I know where I'm going.
That you know where you're going, okay. And how certain are you at this moment in your life that you can find any place on this planet that will give you that degree of safety?
65%.
Okay, so the 35% may force, 35% of uncertainty may force you to think a little bit beyond safe, just in case, just in case. So blue sky, forward-looking, novel, different, progressive, thought-provoking. It's not such a scary place, and you can still keep your feet on the ground. But the challenge is, how do you think a little bit beyond that in case it stops? In case the unknown happens. And spaced out. And when I went to, when I was applying to graduate school, one of the questions was, you know, basically, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was all of 21. I had had 1 year of nursing experience behind me. I decided I hated it. So I was going to graduate school, to School of Public Health. And they said, where do you see your next self in the next 5 years? And I wrote Commissioner of Mental Health for the state of New York. Who writes that? 5 years when I'm 25 with no experience after graduate school? I got accepted because of the audacity of my career goal. When I got interviewed, they said, no one writes things like this. That's spaced out ideas. Have your feet on the ground and your eyes should be on the sky. So as safe as you want your life to be, think about, I hope you get it, but think about that opportunity. And so very quickly, act quickly with the means at hand, who you are, this is a recap, what you know, whom you know, anything else that's real and relevant. And then do a 2x2. You couldn't have somebody with a PhD without a grid here. So we've got market, feasibility, value, personal. Can I do it? Is it worth it? Is it doable? And the market is your market for opportunity. The market is your market for career. Do I want to do it? So what we also say is that, and this is true for all entrepreneurs, it's fueled by passion, it's fueled by desire. If you don't want to do it, you'll never be able to. So it's the passion of this is what I want that helps you get through the hard stuff and the uncertainty. Do I want to do it? Do I care? Am I passionate? Is it a desire? And then continue until you don't want it anymore. I'm bored, I need to do something else. You exceed your affordable loss. It's not working for me. I'm not making money anymore. I don't have the security I want. Everybody has their own definition of affordable loss. Or you prove to yourself it can't be done. You've hit that little brown barricade a few too many times. Okay, so in a nutshell, you need both prediction, and I just changed this word from creation to creaction, which is taking action while creating. You need both. You employ both reflexively. It's people who are bilingual, who go into a setting and they don't have to think, now I'm going to speak French. They just go into French. Now I'm going to speak Spanish. It doesn't happen. They just move into it. So both are there. Both are always on the front. You'll need prediction informing creation, and you'll use creation as subordinate to and part of prediction. They're not individually autonomous. They're not independent. Use them both. Does that make sense? You had a question? So when I told my father I was getting my PhD, he asked if that was as good as an MD. That was number one. So it's not necessarily the pinnacle. You have 3 people here who don't have doctorates, who've had extraordinarily successful career. And I went back to get my doctorate when I was 32, and I had 2 children. So I spent, 12 years of my life trying to figure out what I wanted before I figured out what I wanted, and lots of little steps. And then I decided I wanted it. So if that helps, I mean, virtually everyone I know had very different definitions of success or what's important to you and making you happy with your life. So being a doctor doesn't make me successful. What I've done in spite of it has made me successful. And I think it's important to separate out title from success, title from happiness, title from satisfaction, because titles are totally meaningless. Maybe they get you a little bit of a leg up in terms of entry point, and people get a little bit impressed. But again, there's a wonderful New Yorker cartoon with, it's a maitre d' in a restaurant, and the caption is, so are you a real doctor or just a PhD? So don't think that having a doctorate guarantees anything and defines who you are. And I think you'll all speak to that momentarily. So hold that thought. It's an important question, but it's not success. Success is joy in what you do every day. Success is not in a credential in any way, manner, or form, no matter what it looks like. Okay, career success. Entrepreneurial thinking, think big, and think big is really important. Start small. Throw it out to the universe. This is my mantra. Throw it out to the universe, and the universe answers. Whenever I'm up against a job I hate, I call everybody I know and say, this is terrible. Where am I going next? That's it. And then somehow I get a phone call, or I get an answer. Identify potential stakeholders and supporters. That's your networks. Start several paths. Never say, this is the only way. Envision multiple goals. Focus on the means versus the ends. If the means make you happy, you might never get to the ends because the means become the end, but not in the bad way of bureaucracy. Leverage and expect surprises, and those are the best parts. Learn quickly from new data. Build off what you find, good or bad. Do rapid rebalancing and rethinking. Did that work? Maybe not. What am I doing next? Desire drives motivation. Recognize that the best goal may not be the first goal, and you'll learn this all along the way. So I'm going to leave you with 2 quotes. Peter Drucker, the best way to predict the future is to create it. It's your future, no one else's. And this is my all-time favorite. I keep this everywhere. It's from Goethe. Build whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to move on to my amazing panel, who is the coolest group of women you'll ever meet. And any questions?
Thank you so much. I really love the idea of a quilt versus a puzzle, and I'm an art major, so I know prediction or like trying to analyze and plan things really makes the least original and most boring paintings or work. But could you help me think about how I could or we could apply this quilt idea to our projects that we're working on? I know my group that's addressing food security, we're thinking about a toolbox, we considered puzzles, but I can't really wrap my head around, thinking about solving these gigantic issues that are not my personal life in a quilt. I don't know what.
So what the quilt says you should do is you start with the resources at hand.
Okay.
And so, and maybe we should talk off, on the break, because I'm not quite sure what the project is, so it's hard to simply answer it. But the quilt is simply figure out what you have and then start building in a way that makes sense. And sense is defined by the network that you're in, by the people who are the stakeholders, by the environment, by the context. And so, and Marianne may have some comments on food security because you look at all these things at the Naval War College. So why don't we put that answer off, but it's certainly something we'll come back to.